My question, where is courage? And courage is not bravery. It is not recklessness. It is character. It is character to recognize fear, but character that urges you to proceed with quiet dignity in spite of fear. I think that we will all do well to remember that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King led from the front in the civil rights movement. So did Nelson Mandela. So did Lee Kuan Yew in the agitation for Singapore's independence. Barack Obama has been to the war fronts in countries where American troops, young men and women, are put in harm's way to inspire them. As racially divided as America was in the days of Martin Luther King, he did not seek to divide the country and impose black rule over white rule. He dreamt and worked hard to unify divided people. Nelson Mandela sacrificed personal liberty for the emancipation of his people, and he surrendered presidential power for a higher power, a moral authority that made him the father of a continent and a global leadership reference. When by clinging to power, he could not have been more than a president of one of the world's countries, but he has become president of an entire planet. Instead of dividing the ethnic Chinese, the Malay, and the Indians in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew united them with his housing and education policies, built a nation, and took them on a journey of dizzying adventure and development. Today, so regrettably, we now hear how the service of earlier leaders of this country are discredited and dishonored. We hear things like, nobody has done what we have done since Nigeria was formed. I have always wondered how the 7 former presidents and leaders of this country who are still alive, who sit in the National Council of State, must feel when they hear these things. How does it propel them? How do they feel when their service is openly discredited and dishonored? Instead of boasting that no previous leader of government has done more for his country, as we hear today, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the leader of Dubai, whose achievements far surpass ours, at least for now, not only acknowledges the service of those who have come before him, he sets new challenges for his government and dreams new dreams for his people. This is what he said in his book titled My Vision, Challenges in the Race for Excellence. He says, quote, "Although Arab and world history abound with numerous examples of leaders, if I were to review the history that I stood witness to, the leader I constantly think about is Sheikh Zayed. Sheikh Zayed earned the love of all those around him out of their great respect for his hard work and his achievements. He was also frank and expected people to be frank with him. This is something he taught me, and this is how I came to respect him. How can I prove this? Well, many from the United Arab Emirates and overseas criticized Sheikh Zayed for drilling artesian wells in the desert and using the water for farming. They said this would deplete a non-renewable source, inflict heavy damage on the environment, and disturb its natural balance. Although none of those critics ever knew the actual size of the underground water reservoirs, they continually criticized the idea. As time passed, water remained abundant, and none of the fears of critics materialized, while Sheikh Zayed was proven right. In the not-so-distant past, people traveling between Abu Dhabi and Al Ain would die of thirst if they did not have enough water for the long journey. Sheikh Zayed transformed the same journey into a fascinating drive on an ultra-modern highway flanked by farms, palm gardens, and endless greenery. In fact, Sheikh Zayed transformed a large area of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi into the world's largest oasis in one of the world's harshest deserts. All this was made possible by the huge water reserves he put to good use and which are now expected to last many decades. I will never abandon, after acknowledging those who came before him, he says, I will never abandon one opportunity and wait for another. And in spite of what is happening in Dubai now, he says, we have not reached the goal we are striving for. What you see today is nothing compared to our vision. These are just tiny parts of what lies ahead of us. I know the road to development and modernization is difficult. I know that it is long. And I also know that the next stages will be even tougher and longer. But I have faith in God. I believe in my people, in the wisdom of our leadership, and the future of our nation. I am confident we will realize our goals. Our vision is clear. Our road is paved, and the clock is ticking. There is no more time for hesitation of half-baked goals or solutions. Development is an ongoing process, and the race for excellence has no finish line. End of quote. So until we find that kind of leader that believes in God and country, who truly loves the people, the leader who recognizes service, not awards, self-adulation, and national honors as the highest honor, until then, will our democracy remain undeveloped. Certainly, without subscribing to any recklessness, I would think that if the leadership of any country is worth living for, it must also be worth dying for. Regrettably, such sterling leadership as we now so desperately need is not given to nations frequently or indeed in abundant supply. And I will demonstrate this by carrying out a very small exercise. In 36 years of the United States, she has produced 44 presidents. And as we sit here, let us ask ourselves if we can count 12 of them off the top of our head. If you get to 11 or 12, you'll probably be at a quarter, and that would be a 25% score, and 25% clearly is not a pass. So that is how few and far between outstanding leaders come to the life of a nation. You don't produce them every day. And in about 500 years of British democracy, or a little over, she has produced about 75 prime ministers. Think and see if you can remember 20 off the top of your head. If you do, you'll be close to 30%. It's still not a pass mark. The reason you may not remember many of them is that they were simply either not outstanding or did not meet the developmental aspirations of their people. Indeed, in just about a decade, Britain has produced 3 prime ministers: Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and David Cameron. And in next year's election, who knows what will happen. I think in about 5 years, Japan has produced almost double that number of prime ministers. And this March, in India, the ruling party, the Congress party, was defeated, with the winning party, BJP, having 31.4% of the votes against the then ruling party's 19.5%. The instructive message in this musical chair of leaders is that their people have always acted to vote out leaders who were inefficient, who were not trusted, or who were simply unable to inspire their people. A number of American presidents served only one term. Some voluntarily stepped down. Others were voted out. Recently, Gordon Brown, Prime Minister Gordon Brown, finished the term of Tony Blair and was voted out in the very first elections that he called. I will now conclude. So apart from building great parties, finding good people, and so on and so forth, the Nigerian people must find the courage to vote out an unperforming government after its first term. This must be the mood when that government lies about power, when it lies about security or about the economy, which are the problems it was mandated to solve. This is the strongest message of a desire for development that the Nigerian people can send to the incoming government, that we will vote you out if you also do not develop our lives. It remains for me to wish Governor Silva a happy birthday, because this paper has been presented at his behest to commemorate his 50th birthday anniversary. Happy birthday and many happy returns.